Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
How many interviews have you done this week?
Oh my. Only two.
Only two. Is this the second or the third?
This is the third one. Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to be the best one. How's
Yes, the most fun one. For
Oh my
sure.
gosh. Well, I appreciate your time. You know, we were talking before how valuable that time is anymore between being, chef here and the things with the show and being mom and all of those kind of things. Your time is super valuable. So
That's wild.
I really appreciate you
Oh,
taking
no.
some of it to
Thank
spend
you.
here.
No,
And,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you want to go through things that were going on right now with Top Chef,
Mm-hmm.
and what that whole experience is like, and also dive into Lexington and where you're at with your relationship with the city right now, and all of those kind of things. So,
TF there. Okay.
yeah, I mean, how long have you been here? Let's start there.
Oh wow.
Remind me.
2 years. Exactly 2 years. 3 days ago. Yeah. I mean, I went
3 days ago, you're like
Yeah.
keeping track, apparently.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it's such a big new chapter of my life,
Yeah.
Something about me, I always think about the next thing, and which is a bad thing, but I'm always hungry for more. And before I took the decision to move here to Lexington, I was already thinking to move somewhere else. Just because I enjoy my time in Arkansas, but I feel like I touched the roof. And if I really wanted to grow, I needed to move somewhere else. And I don't know, as a foreigner, I also was always looking for that sense of home. And when I came here the first day, immediately it was like, boom.
Yeah.
And I did not expect that. So,
And when you say that, what was it about Kentucky or Lexington specifically?
well, I mean, first of all, I never been to Kentucky before I stepped into my first time here, And something about the drive, I think, going to the horse farms, it reminds me of a specific location between the city and going to a valley. The rolling hills, the green grass, and there's this road. There's two roads actually I really enjoy driving whenever I have to just clear my head because they're full of trees.
Okay. Here, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ironworks and Antioch Road, I think.
Gotcha.
I love
Okay.
those. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you ever see
Yeah, no, it is
a blue
beautiful out
car,
there.
probably is mine. But no, I love that because it brings me back home, going to my grandfather's farm. And it's just that sense of, I don't know, settling
Yeah.
that I have not felt for 6 years.
And so obviously you felt that when you first got here. Do you still feel that
Yeah.
sense of home?
Yeah,
Like
of
the
course.
home feeling that you envisioned and were hoping would happen. Did it happen? Like this feels
It does.
right?
I
Good.
mean, my life has completely changed. So from the day that I came in here, personally wise, to now.
Okay.
But I still feel like this is my home base for sure.
Yeah.
I see my kids growing up here, but also kind of me. I come from a capital, Ecuador, so it's city, urban, like it's like walking, no cars. I learned how to drive in Arkansas during the COVID time.
Okay.
So, and for me, it was like a necessary thing to have because I will always like walk everywhere,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, so far, it feels like I want to be here for sure. Yeah.
Is there anything missing that you wish we had that we don't?
Family.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Well,
think.
And you said your sister's coming here in
Yes.
like September.
Yes.
So that's exciting.
It's exciting.
So
yeah.
it fills that gap a little bit, maybe, right?
Exactly. But I mean, it's always, I don't know, when you are living somewhere else in the world, it's just like, you get used to always being very independent. Like, I don't want to rely on anyone. I don't like to ask for favors. I don't like to ask for help. It's kind of my thing. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll be fine. I'm by myself in another country. I have my 2 kids, But when I saw my sister, when she came to visit, I was like, oh, I mean, I do need family. I mean, it's kind of also kind of protecting myself of feeling that need, but also it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, you need family with you, It makes home feel more home. So
You said something interesting, like the psychology of like being independent and you don't want to rely on anybody, but then also your sister came and kind of gave you a dose of the opposite.
yeah.
So how does being independent help you? And how does it hurt you, do you think? Just as a person.
As a person,
Yeah.
in many ways, I think. I mean, overall, I always love a challenge, I gone through, I mean, like any other person in life, have gone through challenges, personal, career-wise, that it makes you better. you know. I feel like it's like one stripe more on the tiger, you know. It's something that I go through that I have like passed over. But even though it's not normal to be so independent, I think it's just one of those things that being used to for so long ago. I graduated. I knew if I wanted to go to university and have a career, I needed to pay for it. So I was like, okay, I mean, nobody else going to do it for you, Paula. So you're going to have to do it and find something you're very passionate about, so you don't feel like you're working for something that is not meaningful for you, you know? And thankfully, I found a career that I'm very passionate about. I don't feel like I'm going to work or it's my job. I'm very, very, very happy, you know? Completely in love with the hospitality business. But I mean, at a certain point, being so independent, it does hurt you in many ways. Even like, I don't know, like at work, because you have to have that teammate mentality, of course, and have a good leader have to have that mentality. Personally, I mean, in finding a person, a relationship, you know, as well, because you have to let go of that barrier. Otherwise, it doesn't work. You cannot do everything yourself.
Got it.
So
at work, I guess delegating tasks and things of that nature,
it's hard.
It's hard. Do you feel like it's getting easier as you go more
Absolutely.
and more?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I remember when I started, and when in my first like leadership managerial position, I was like, no, I can do it myself, you know? And then with time, you have to think that I wouldn't be able to do and be where I am right now if I didn't have a team, because it's no way on earth, you know?
Yeah.
And also, if you want to continue to grow, it's your job at a certain point that you teach them to continue to follow the process of the business. Because if you don't do that, you cannot be the magic miracle like answer for every problem that happens every day.
Right.
And I think that applies to any leadership position in any industry. You have to learn to teach others what you can do in order to keep growing. Otherwise, you won't be able to grow.
Yeah. The reason I bring this up and keep wanting to talk about it is so many business owners specifically are, you know, it's one of those things like, I started the business, this is mine, and I need to see this come to fruition, and it's my dream. And they just hold it so close, and they're afraid to delegate and let others be part of it and come in and help them achieve that dream.
Exactly.
What are some tricks that you've had over the years of like letting go and saying, you know what, I'm going to take a breath and say, this really isn't, this particular thing is something I don't need to hold close to myself. I can let somebody else do it.
I think being here, me being a business owner prior coming here, I was that person. I think I was very successful and I reached amazing things, but I did not let my team learn more things in order to take that into it and for me to be able to grow more. And something that really hit me was back in 2021, my second son was already born, and he is had disabilities. He was for hospital very long time, and I mean absurd amount of time. But he was there like roughly like 7 months, and thankfully it was so close to Memphis that I can do the back and forth. I mean, drive almost an hour was nothing at that point. But I knew it would have been easier if I would have taken the time to and let go of that pride to really teach my team to do what they needed to do while I was away.
Yeah.
They handle it, but at the same time, for me, it was like, you have to really work on that, because otherwise you're screwed. Like,
and I'm sure the more that you delegate and let others take over things and like really own a part of the work, I'm sure you're learning things from others and the people that work for you, really, and the
absolutely.
team. So what are some of the things that you've been learning?
Oh my, I mean, I think I have an incredible partner in crime, which is our F&B director, Garrett Coates, and he has pushed me to be, to let go, to designate, you know, to delegate. And also our GM, Gabe Isaac, and Nick Fumon as well. I mean, it's kind of one of those things that they pushed me to kind of let go and delegate a little bit more, because otherwise this is a huge operation, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, doing that, I have learned a lot of my team itself, you know, who is more passionate doing what. In my mind, I always think like, oh, I mean, if we continue to grow like this, I think this person will be very good at that. And that's a new enjoyment I have now, that it's like, if I help them get their success, it would be a very selfish and kind of selfish too as
Yeah.
well, because it brings me joy, but also it's kind of like, oh, they need that, you know? And I'm glad to be their support to just grow in their career.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, every time I come here, it seems like the team is from all parts of the team, hospitality, not just the kitchen, but it seems like everybody gets along really well. And there's a real symbiotic thing that's going on, which is really special and very cool to see.
It
so
is.
Congrats to you all.
Thank you so much. It's a very hard industry to work with. So.
I can imagine. A lot of rotating positions and people in and out and moving around. So yeah, it seems like a lot of stability, which is good.
It is. It's good to have a good team and family per se. Especially, I think the hospitality business itself, it's crazy hours. It's not the best. It's not the healthiest either. Sometimes I have met people in kitchens that it's insane. I mean, it's the whole toxic trait of being like bullied and like falling to the cracks of addiction, stuff like that. It's actually an accurate thing. It happens. But I think as new generations come in and also get rid of the yelling chef per se and be more a leader, I think it changes something a little more healthy, you know. There's many parts of our industry that it still needs to improve. But it is good to have a good team because it's a very lonely life. I mean, you're in demand of the guest. Whenever you come into work, it's whatever the guest needs. And I always go back to this amazing book that is Unreasonable Hospitality of Will Guidara. I mean, if we can do it, we do it, you know? I mean, you cannot say no. And that's the thing that we always tell our team. If we have it, we can do it, we execute it. It's part of hospitality. Like, just be unreasonable about it.
Yeah. You know, I was just thinking about this. It seems like maybe a unique, how do I want to say this? Like if say you're a director of a ballet studio, something like that, you know, you're in charge, whatever, you do all these things, rehearsals, you know, you got set, you get the audience, everybody's there, you get to sit down and actually watch the performance and go, wow, I get to see the fruits of my labor. And as a chef, you know, you're doing all the work, you played it, you put it out there, and then it goes out the door and you never see the smile on somebody's face. You don't get to taste the food for that, you know, like there's, so I'm curious, you know, like how do you feel rewarded in a job where you don't get to actually see the actual moment of impact? I
don't know. I mean, I think that's a really good question. For me, the reward comes when I put a menu out, you know? The process of doing a menu, for me, it's kind of weird because it's just, I think about food the way that I need to pay homage to the place that I've been, where I'm living, the surroundings. Think about sustainability, seasonality. But also I do the research. I mean, I don't want to put something out that it's not truthful to that culture, especially being a foreigner, you know? I mean, if I go eat Ecuadorian food somewhere else from another chef, I expect certain standard because I grew up with eating that food, you know? And that's the thing that I always go back to is like, I need to make sure that what I'm doing is correct and it's actually pays a match to the culture that I'm cooking. And I think every chef just evolves if you continue to just being cooking, you know, depending on your life. So I never thought I was going to be living in the Appalachians, you know, the bluegrass. And it's a completely different culture to where I'm coming from, Arkansas, Delta, South, you know, a little bit of Cajun, Creole. So it's really fun to continue to be learning. And I think my reward always been, I always want to be learning. I don't want to stop.
Yeah.
And that goes also with being humble. A lot of chefs, at least from, I don't want to say older generations, but it was always the ego, no? I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I'm the best chef. For me, it's not that. I always think about how can I be better from the day before? And I want to keep learning because if I stop learning, I think I'm being mediocre. So the reward is for me in that. And now it's putting that to my team and be like, hey, we're doing this food. From the house, back to the house, they all get this manual where it can be a bit too much maybe, but it's like a 30-page manual of where the inspiration is coming from, type of cuisine. So they have like a paragraph of like what Ecuadorian cuisine is, what Cajun cuisine is. And they need to know that. I mean, that's the kind of feeling and like commitment I have and we have here in both restaurants. So I think that is my reward because honestly, I feel like I'm the most awkward person in crowds. I cannot talk. I mean, it takes a lot of me to go to a dining room and talk to people. I like to be backstage, like we're stressful.
So you're a one-to-one person? Like you could talk to one person, but not a crowd?
Yeah.
That sort of thing?
I mean, if it's like kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I'm being judged. I feel the same anxiety that I felt every time I was going to judge a table in Top Chef. It's like my hands sweat and I'm like, and I'm like, I'm sweaty and you just been working for 5 hours nonstop. So you smell like food and you have to be like, oh, how you guys like that?
Yeah.
I feel so awkward to approach the table and be like, I don't know, it's just, for me, it's a lot. But sometimes I have to push myself, especially now being in the position I am. I cannot be like, oh, I cannot talk to this person, you know? So I think I'm still working on that because I feel I'm shy in certain ways. I don't mind talking to a crowd per se or being on the camera live.
Yeah.
Otherwise I wouldn't done what I have done. But it's more of like, it feels like so much pressure to go and be like, oh, how was your night? You know, because I feel so like the small talk, what I'm going to say. It's like,
I feel that sometimes too. It's like, I have no idea what I want to say to you. I've been working for, like you said, like I can't imagine going on the show and doing 5 hours work, prepping, doing all these things, running around. You've been yelling, you've been in your head about like, okay, what is the story that we're telling? How are we composing this dish? And you know, oh my gosh, we burnt this thing and we had to transition and do this other thing to make it work and fit. And like, you go through all that drama. And then now it's like, you had to pretend it didn't
like
even
nothing
happen.
Has
That's a lot.
No,
it's a special skill in itself right there, it sounds like.
I always tell them my social battery is like super tiny.
Yeah.
Like we went to Bourbon Classic last month and I was like, I need to be at home, like resting. Nobody bothers me. I don't want to talk to anyone. And that night, because it takes a lot of like, we talk of at least 500 people that day. And it's just, and you tell the same story, you know, and you have to be as excited and as happy as the first time you are talking to the first guest. So that is a lot for me. And at the end of the night, I'm like, oh my God, like I just want to go home with my kids and my dogs.
Yeah. My friend, Rich Redman, he's a drummer for Jason Aldean. Jason Aldean's a really well-known country artist. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's been around for about 25 years. They've been playing together. One of the things that Rich, he's been on the podcast before. One of the things he talks about is playing a song that he's played for 25 years and every time playing it like it's the first time.
Yeah.
And then also, like, they're in the middle of cutting the next album right now. They're in the studio recording, I think, even today.
Amazing.
And when he's laying down a track that they've never done before, has to play it as though they've played it for 25 years. So it's that weird dichotomy of like, just, it's a character that you got to play. And it also makes me think of actors that, you know, they put a movie out, they filmed for 3 straight years, and then now they're doing these like interviews for the next year and a half to sell the movie and answering the same questions. That is a special skill set for sure that you really have to own and lean into.
Absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm very grateful for everything, but me, just as my character, my personality, I am sometimes of like super up there, or I'm like, oh God. But I mean, I have to be like, I talk about things that is a passion for me, you know? So it's not that bad.
So it's easy to repeat it over and
exactly.
over. Yeah.
Because when you say things like, oh my God, I have to do that, it's not that you feel ungrateful. It's just like, it just takes a lot.
You're a person at the end of the day. You
like,
aren't a robot.
Beings.
Yeah, right? You know, I think about this because I watch competition cooking shows all the time, especially like holiday baking championship and things of this nature. There's just something fun about that, especially around the holidays. You're just like on the couch. Just, you know. And I watch it and I'm like, there's a lot of times and moments where you're like, wow, that's predictable what I just saw happen. You know, they're given an ingredient to use, or you have to prepare a certain style dish or whatever. And there's like the obvious things to do. Yeah. And I feel like most of those things always get done. And then every so often you see something that's like, wow, I didn't know. I've never even thought about that. Like I don't live in the culinary world in that sense. But like, I'm curious, with 30 years of TV cooking, and actually more than that, I think, with Julia Child and other people that have been doing it. How do you continue to find something that's new and unique and sort of groundbreaking and fresh? Because it feels like we have so much that's been done. I know. How in the world do we find anything new?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I remember way back, one of my favorite chefs, his name is Ferran Adrià. He opened El Bougie, was the best restaurant in the world for years. They opened only 6 months and closed for the other 6 for just investigation, you know. And one of the things that he always did, because he created molecular cuisine, he was actually a biochemist turned into a chef. And after years, they're very close. They're focused more on like the more investigation part of culinary industry. He always said like you have 2 ways, either innovation or you have running into more comfort food, you know. And for my end, I'm not looking for innovation, you know. I'm trying to more reflect the food that I do, link into nostalgia, link into comfort food. Yes, I mean, I did my my specialization in avant-garde cuisine, and it's fun to take like, I don't know, let's say a strawberry and cook it and still make it look perfect like it's fresh, but inside it's all like already caramelized, you know? That's fun things. But at the end of it all, for me, it's just linked on who you are. If you're a chef and you're not cooking with your identity, it's really hard. Like if you're a chef that you actually passionate what you do. So if you start cooking food that is you have to cook for that, you will see. You taste in the food.
So kind of like your why, I guess, right? Like why I'm a chef, why am I choosing this cuisine, this ingredients? So, that sounds just like retail. I was just talking to somebody yesterday about like how in the world do you stand out? Oh, it was Jason Morena. We recorded a podcast. He's in Amsterdam. And he's the head of content for Mike Posner, the singer. And we were just talking about like how in the world do you stand out in a world like in retail, go back to that for a moment, of like everybody wears t-shirts, pants, socks, like, you know what I mean? Like these things are not groundbreaking items that you're selling in your boutique. So when you're coming up with a content plan, what are you selling? You know, like features and benefits of like it's got a zipper and pockets? No. It's the why behind you started it. It's like, I had a daughter that's 2 years old and I couldn't, and I don't know, she's got a unique physical feature and we couldn't find something to help her. So I created my own and started a line for that and found a problem to solve, you know?
Exactly.
So I guess same thing. It doesn't matter if it's hospitality, food, retail, musicians, it's all sell your why. That's what we're really doing here.
I mean, the story has to be story behind it. It has to, the value now, I mean, it's more of like, oh wow, I mean, this chef did this because it's reminding of the roots. So for me, that's identity. I mean, I feel like when people open just restaurants, because I mean, first, people that want to get into the restaurant industry that haven't been before, I mean, it's not fun. I mean, it's very hard work. You really have to have a passion for it, and it's not an easy thing either. And it has to be a why. It has to be have an identity. I mean, and I think that also shows the kind of chef you are. And don't get me wrong. I mean, if at some point, if I don't know, I want to do like a burger shop, fun. I mean, I'm not saying that serve specific food is bad. It's just has to be a reason why, and the reason why is what compels people to come.
I'm part of the Facebook group here, the Lexington Foodies and whatever news group, and it seems like almost every week there's a handful of things opening and a handful of closing, and it's like when you see the new ones opening, you can tell which ones might have some staying power because there's an actual story. And then the ones that closed, you go, and it's pretty obvious why. There was no why behind it. Like just because it's good doesn't make it a place people want to go.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know. And I think the business changes like with time, like anybody, we all evolve. I mean, I'm not the same person that was 10 years ago. And probably I won't be the same person here in a decade either. But
we would hope not,
changes.
Right? Yeah. We would hope that we grow and we evolve. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just one of those things. I think I like to be true to myself, and I see food in a way of it brings me back to home. And that's what I like. And behind home for me, like, for example, when I was back in Arkansas, in a place I had never been before, very different to where I'm from, I found comfort on certain type of food, you know, and product. And then it clicked the light bulb of like, the product that I use in here in Southern cuisine is very similar to what we use for our traditional food. So it has to be a connection. And that's one of the things that I've been doing here, and also when I was back in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we spoke, I think it was back in November, we were working together on a different project, and we were talking away from cameras and stuff. Like, okay, so you're here with all this sophisticated technique and flavor profiles and everything. What do you do to, what's your like guilty pleasure? And you said Taco Bell.
Oh God,
it's
yes,
like regular
absolutely.
tacos. I was like, okay.
No, yes, I mean,
How can you hate a Taco Bell taco?
Everything has a place, you know? I mean, for me, yeah, my guilty pleasure is Taco Bell. For sure. Are you kidding me? Ooh, love Taco Bell. I remember my first Super Bowl party I ever went to. It was here with my friends from the hotel. Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh, yeah, I'm going to bring this dip and this dip. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to bring.
Please tell me you got like, those things of like 12 tacos.
The taco party, I brought 2 boxes. Everybody left with a pocket taco. It was the best day of my life.
Oh, my God. Just for reference, that was the most excited you've been on this interview so far is when I brought up Taco Bell.
The passion I have.
The passion for Taco Bell you have more than work.
Yes! I mean, it's a funny thing because I was like, I think I'm crazy. And then my friend he's Mexican. He has an amazing restaurant in Baltimore. He's obsessed with Taco Bell as well. James Beard nominee.
So okay. You guys have these sophisticated palates. What is it about Taco Bell?
I don't know. The fire sauce. I think it's more about the sauce than the vehicle, you know?
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, it depends. I have tried some new things they have been putting out lately, and it was amazing. But no, I mean, it's one of those things that, I don't know, like on our time off, we cook every day, you know? And if we are like between cooking, also managing or executive priorities, it's kind of like we just want to relax, you know? And
let somebody else do the cooking and
exactly.
the work. Yeah.
Like on my time off, I will cook for my kids because they're my kids. But many times I remember back in the day in Ecuador, it's like, oh, like I will meet a guy like, oh, can you cook for me? I'm like, no. Like if I'm cooking for a man, it's because I really love the boy. Otherwise, absolutely not. My time off, I'm not going to be cooking for someone, you know? Yeah. I want to just like lay back, eat Taco Bell. That's what I do.
Well, and you brought up your kids, and I'm curious, a lot of time spent obviously filming for the show and then being here. And I know it's important to you to get home to your son all the time. How do you balance being mom and executive and now TV personality? Yeah,
I mean, I think it goes back to basically I like to keep them separate. Like my life with my kids is one thing. And yes, I have friends that has known my kids, but I don't like to mix those two. It always go back to make sure they're okay, their priority, and then everything else. I mean, it's also kind of linked because I have to work to make sure they're okay, you know?
Yeah.
But I have a good support system. My friends here in the management team are very, very understanding about my situation per se, because it's not easy, you know. You want to be the present parent, and then you also want to be the career. So it's very hard, and we have responsibilities here. I mean, we work 10-hour shifts, sometimes 12, depending on the day. So it's ongoing calendar and organization in the back of my mind of like, I need to make sure that I go to book for my son and it goes through an hour and I know it's going to be 30 minutes away, you know, and make sure that everything is going. I know not many people have that luxury, and I understand that, and I'm very blessed. But also, I mean, mentally, it's a lot of stress, that's for sure. Like, I feel my mind is always 100 miles an hour, and I don't know how to live without having that stress.
Do you thrive on it, or does it
I feel like I thrive on it. It's exhausting at some point, but it's like I feel the tank and then I go.
I feel the same.
No, absolutely. Especially when I came back from Top Chef, because it was an amazing experience. It's so cool. But you are 100 miles an hour. Like when the cameras are rolling and you're in the challenge, you're there. Like I need that pressure. I need that stress to thrive. So when I came back here, and I remember it was Thursday night or maybe Wednesday night. It was a Wednesday night. We started just at 5 and tickets were coming in. And I was like, wow, I mean, 15 minutes. There's so much you can do in 15 minutes, you know, when they push you to do a dish in 30 and you have to like just, I don't know, work so fast. And I miss that. I miss that adrenaline. So every time we're super busy, for me, it feels me in. Like, I need that.
Well, just wait to pull the ticket until it's like an almost unreasonable amount of time that the person's been waiting, and then start cooking. That'll get you going.
I love when they come and they're like vegans, vegetarians. It's like, oh, we can do it off the menu. And it's like, oh God, like, yes, like, let's do it. And they don't know I actually enjoy that.
So how do you even want to replicate something like that in a normal, typical environment? Like where it is go, go, go?
I mean,
that feels like that would be maybe fun for a
Yeah.
minute, but then exhausting if that becomes the norm.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
No, yeah. Like I feel my best time for me is Keeneland because we're busy every
Okay.
day.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's also like you want to pump your brakes down and also just like you need time for yourself. You need time for the kids, time for the family. And I always being like either both of them, like it's my kids or work. And I always forget to give time for myself. So that's the thing that I do need to improve because I enjoy doing both. That I forget that I also need like
You got to take care of you.
Yeah.
So what would you do if you could have that time for yourself?
Oh God. Well, sleep.
Okay.
I sleep like a sloth. I mean, I love to sleep. I mean, you asked me what's the best thing in my life. I
Yeah.
love to sleep, but
You should have
no.
your own secret room here.
I know,
Let's,
right?
just sneak off
hide
and take a nap.
It's like I'll be back. I would, but no. I mean, I think I always like hobbies. So when I was a kid, I always was like my parents were in a position to push me to do different things, and I loved that. And I don't like to go to the gym, so I like something that actually feels me and makes me work out, and I learn a new skill set. So I have done like professionally, I was a figure skater and a bowler. But between those, I did Muay Thai, ninjutsu. I did fencing just for a couple months. I used to be huge in like music. I actually want to start music before. So guitar,
music?
piano,
Okay.
and singing. Singing was the main thing I did.
Got it.
And now I actually, one of my close friends, he introduced me to polo. So I was doing that last year, but not like very, very like not much.
When you say doing, what does that mean with polo?
Like I went and in my teacher Jorge, he taught me how to play polo. So I went there a couple times.
So you're on a horse and you're playing.
Yeah.
You just listed like 15 different lives. And then on top of that, it's like somehow you've become a professional chef that's, worthy of being on like how in the world
But
do you
I
have time for any of that?
You know, I mean, one of those things is like they're hobbies, but if I want to do it, when I want something professionally and I want to be successful, I completely like zone out everything else and I do that.
Here comes the independence again, right?
Exactly. No, absolutely, And recently I started Kung Fu because I was like, well, I need something a little more in contact active that is going to be like take all that energy, that high energy, And I don't know, I'm eager for spring. I met some ladies that play polo too. So I think I'm going to start that doing as well on Wednesday. So it's my time for myself. Like I always tell my friends that they're very, I don't want to say intense on what they do, but I think we are very intense. If you don't take care of yourself, nobody else will be okay.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I want to go back to that too, because boundaries are obviously important. You need to be able to say, work, like I need a minute. Home, I really have to work if we're going to pay the bills. So especially with, high profile situation you have here, it seems, how do you draw those boundaries? And how do you sit down with, Garrett and say, hey, I need these
this
kind
time.
of things with my kids and this time for myself. And how do you have that conversation?
I think on the multiple scenarios and the time that we've been all working together, you have come instances that it's like, hey, I need a minute. I mean, I'm the kind of person that I will do anything. I feel like I'm capable of doing whatever I put my eye onto. But I also know like what is the results after that nobody else see. So it's kind of those things that I have to put limits with my own self and be, okay, you can do this, but also make sure that you're okay and everything else is okay. So we have very good communication. And like I said, they're very understanding because like, for example, Gary has a family too. So it's one of those things that they've always been very supportive. And when it comes at home, it's kind of have really hard that conversation, It's my oldest, I think he understands now. Because it was really hard to be away. I think that was the hardest thing I ever done in my life. And never being away from them ever in my life more than
like for the show,
days.
you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was gone for a very long time. So for me, I was like, I know this is hard for him and for myself, but at some point I know he would understand. And I want him to have that same fire of like, I want that. I'm going to go get it and I'm going to do it. And also there's a conversation of like, he needs to understand. I mean, as we all grow up, it's like, hey, honey, I mean, it's you, me, and your brother. So mommy has to work. We're gonna do this. I'm trying to push him as well to hobbies. My youngest son is still too small to get into anything per se.
Yeah.
But
how old is he?
He's 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the oldest is 6 and the youngest is 4. And I'm trying to keep him busy too, as my parents also did when I was his age. So I'm trying to find a sport that he likes. So maybe it's not a sport, maybe it's music. Maybe he likes more of technology. He loves to build Legos, I think. That's his thing.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like robotics, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. My 7-year-old son is definitely into Legos. I think we have everything that Target sells, I think might be at our house.
Oh my God. And there's no space to put them.
No.
It's insane.
And of course, he's really great at organizing all those pieces. You know,
he knows exactly what everything is.
Actually, yeah, that's a whole different thing. What's your biggest takeaway from doing something on TV? That was your first experience doing that, right?
Yes.
So
never,
would you do it again? What's your biggest takeaway?
Yes.
All those things.
Like, I think it was, I don't know. I mean, I loved it. It took a toll mentally for sure. But then it's kind of like it was full circle. And then it was something that I needed to do. I love a challenge, and I know it's funny to say that, but I do. Like, I like to challenge myself to do things that I thought I was never gonna be able to do. I never being away and film and have a camera in your face, you know, and they push you to do things that you never thought you were gonna do. As for example, they will be like, hey, what are you doing? Can you just like talk to yourself about the ingredients you're grabbing, or what are you doing right now? And that's fun. But I think I will do it again for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe when the kids are older, because it was a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. I know what I'm getting into, even though Top Chef is very unexpected. Like, it's, you never know what's going to happen. But you prepare for this in a way that you think, well, yeah, I mean, I've seen the show so many times on TV. Like, I can do that. But you don't know behind it how it is, you know.
So what are the most unexpected ways or unexpected things that you encountered?
Oh my, I mean, I think the time is a race. It is a race. I mean, a race against time. We all, I think, when thinking, I'm going to do this thing if this comes up. Because it's the only thing you can do mentally. It's like, there was a couple of them that was like, I'm going to swing it. Which at some point is kind of like, makes you better as a chef, because we get so structured in this chaos that is like a service and pressure and time, you know, that we are in that environment so long, and we do things that we think, oh yes, okay. But then you get judged by people that caliber. That doesn't happen often. And they're like, oh, this is what you're doing? Guess what? It's not right. Like, you should do this because it doesn't go well. So I think we came out of the competition completely different as people, as chefs, professionals, because they took our bones, broke us down, and basically built it again and be like, you have to think completely different. Always was like, embrace a challenge, because you do have to embrace a challenge. You don't think it's right one certain thing. Yeah.
How has Lexington in Kentucky specifically maybe informed what you do in the kitchen?
What do you mean?
Or changed or altered? Like, maybe there's some flavors or an unexpected ingredient that you found in the culinary around here that you're like, oh, I didn't know about that, or I'm going to use more of that, or...
I think I use social media. I used to use it more when I had my own business. That was the only reason I opened social media. And then I moved to this project and I stopped sharing a lot. But I think it's more of like, come here and see, we change the menu every 3 months. So it's not a complete full change as I used to do, because back at Roots, I used to change the menu every 3 months religiously and not repeat any dish. The only 3 dishes that stayed, it was really funny because they were the most popular, and they were dishes from my country that people absolutely adore. And it was fun how food can also show people new cultures and learn other things, you know?
Yeah.
But here it's a bit different because we're in a hotel. We have repeated guests that came to that Kingland meeting in spring that had this specific dish and they want to have it again. So I changed 50% of it, kind of a 60-40, and keep the classics, but also the seasonal part, which I lean a lot on community. I don't like to be saying that we're farm to table, because we're not. We're not 100% sustained. Like, I'm very curious about that. I like to think we're community forward. Yeah.
So I guess that's how you balance the community that's here that can come here on a regular basis for lunch and dinner, but then also the, like you said, the person that comes in seasonally or maybe even just once.
Yeah.
And give them a new and exciting experience.
Exactly. I mean, I think we all were working in restaurants that we were there like for years. And I always was like that. I was not like a helper or a bouncer per se. I stay there at least 2 to 3 years. But you cook the same thing for all those years, you know? And yeah, you get to that skill set that is like, I mean, blindfold that I can do this. But for me, it's also, I want to push my team to be the best. So I wanted to learn new flavors, new dishes, new things. So the best way to do that and to have what I didn't have back then is doing that. Like, it doesn't only bring me joy, but also I know they learn new things. And I would be very happy to do that because I'm always eager to learn more.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, I think it's obviously important to just keep wanting to learn. I mean, you've mentioned that a few times that you like a challenge. You're independent. You like to keep learning. You feel like if you're not learning, you're stagnant, you're maybe falling behind. Yeah. Yeah. What are you looking forward to coming up in this year? Whether it's personal or professionally, something like that.
I think, that's a hard one. I mean, I'm always looking into cooking with friends, you know? I mean, I'm always looking to cook with other chefs just because for me, even though it's like a collaboration, a dinner, it feels like a little boot camp, you know? I usually go 3 days. I fly the day before, production the next day, and then the dinner, and then I come back straight here to work. And that brings me like new things to do, and like enlightening on different cultures, you know? I'm about to go cook with one of my friends. Her name is Blue Adams. She lives in Utah. And she's a Native American chef. So I'm looking forward to tapping into also that part of my end of my country because we're going to do a menu inspired on that. And I'm looking forward to that and always eager for more, you know? Yeah. At some point in life, I know that, and this is something that I have talked with my friends, you know, and people here as well, I do want to have my restaurant again. I'm not ready personally because the responsibility of being an owner, it doesn't stop. Like right now, I can go home and turn off that mental break. When you're an owner, you don't. You go back home and you're thinking about the taxes. Oh, we have to do this. We have to file over here and licenses. And it's just a non-stop revolving thought process that it really consumes you. And as it is right now, my kids are still small. I want to wait until they're older for me to dive into that boat again that I know I have done it before, but I think I will be setting myself for more success and be mentally prepared for that.
That totally makes sense. I'm excited to see what happens over the next few years for you.
Wild, no?
Yeah. Well, again, I really appreciate all your time and, you know, sitting down to take a moment.
Yeah, I know it's a good
this
break,
is still work,
honestly.
but it's different. So.
It's fun. I mean, it's fun to just sit down and just like, I don't know, go through memory lane.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, hopefully we could do this sometime soon again and catch up maybe like, 6 months to a year, kind of see how things are progressing.
Absolutely.
So, thank you again. And
thank you.
I hope you have a great day.
You too. Thank you. That was fun.